I don't understand my life. I'm busy doing the thing.
So last time we had one of the hardest to edit episode ever because we tried to interview an AI and it was extremely confusing because we were voicing the AI and interviewing it.
It was such a mess. Before the listener comments, I must say that like I hope everyone enjoyed that episode because it was very much a mess to edit. And like, yeah.
So much effort.
And I think we succeed to do something cool about it. Okay, and for the follow-up.
I got one question from Pierre who asked, do you think that can we say that GPT-3 has imagination, which is because we talked a lot about consciousness, and so in his email it was like, but what about imagination? And it seems like a hard thing to define for starters.
I think, yeah, what's nice about...
Do you have a definition of imagination?
I feel like it's the act to create something from nothing. I don't know, we can check imagination. I don't have I don't have a philosophical thing about it.
My go-to answer to that is that GPT is trained on a huge corpus of text. It reads a lot. And it is able to produce from that things that are not in its corpus. So
it has imagination.
I would qualify that as imagination.
I mean, like the definition from Google Dictionary thingy, which I'm not sure where they take it, is a faculty or action for forming new idea. And like it clearly forms new idea. Like it creates new stuff.
It creates new forms. The thing that a little bit goes back to what we are doing, talking about during the episode, is that I don't know if it realizes that the previous things were old ideas and the new thing that are new ideas. I don't know if it has ideas per se.
Yeah,
but it's making new stuff.
But actually, like, I'm going back to the definition because I think it's a really interesting definition, even if, like, definitions are a bit stupid. But the definition, I think, makes so much sense. Like, the faculty or action of forming new ideas, images, or concepts of external object not present to the senses. So, like, not present to
then he does only imagination.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Full imagination.
Full imagination there. Which is interesting because I would have said, without the definition, I would have said that you need consciousness to imagine stuff. But if you take that definition, you don't really, you only need to create stuff.
I mean, with that definition, it's almost the definition of GPT, right? Producing text without having senses.
Which is kind of, okay, that is cute.
There's probably a lot of definitions floating around. What were your conversations about GPT-3? Imagination?
No, not at all. Like, I think, like, the most interesting, because, like, I've already talked about, like, what people's, like, my conversation with GPT, like, about GPT-3 before, like, the podcast, and I think, like, most of the conversation after the podcast was kind of in the same line. But one interesting thing I had as a conversation is with someone that don't really know what machine learning is, and, like, was very, very surprised that we were at that level of performance of creation. And so I think it was very cute that we never really questioned the fact that, like, it's kind of amazing where we are at in AI right now, and we kind of take it as granted, like, okay, yeah, it's cute.
I don't know, we've been raving about AlphaGo for a while.
No, but we've been raving, but because we know kind of how it works behind, like, the cuteness of it, I think that we kind of forget that, like, for an untrained eyes, for example, my sister watched a TV show about AlphaGo on Netflix, and she was completely amazed by it, you know what I mean? But, like, it was not an amazement of, like, technicality. It was just, like, it's completely fucked up. Like, how do we do that? And I think when you come, like, she knows about, like, driving cars, she knows about, like self-driving cars, like, that sort of thing. She's not amazed at all. But when it comes to actually, like, doing something that is passed from, like, imagination or creation, like, the general public, I think, is much more, it's very close to them and, like, what they are doing. And I think it's kind of cute how, like, this kind of creation with machine learning makes the general public more aware of where we're going as a society with machine learning. Because when you tell people, okay, like, maybe we can, like, remove 90% of jobs. They're like, what do you mean? Like, they can't, like, I don't know, like, robots can't, like, I don't know, like, do anything.
Think.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, you start, like, telling them, okay, but, like, I've talked with an AI for an hour. I think, like, it switched something in their brain much more than, like, oh, it recognizes fruits when you're taking a picture or, like, or whatever other application.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that there is this kind of hierarchy in humanness of activities between like conversation, go, and and driving. People think of driving as very utilitarian, I guess.
Yeah.
I think of it as very complex because I don't know, my analytical mind or whatever. But it's self-driving cars seems so much harder than Go or language because.
Well, I like Go for sure, I guess so. But language?
Well, it depends what you mean by that.
Yeah,
I mean, language, you only understand that it's complicated when you actually get down to it. But anyway, the thing is, you don't understand that language is complicated. Well, I didn't understand how language was complicated before I tried to program it, and I think it's a really nice. That's also why computer science brings you a lot of interesting things on a lot of interesting perspectives, because you don't I don't know. Sometimes you don't understand the complexity of a thing or a system unless you try to reproduce it, and then like there's so many things weird in language. I have a bit of a follow-up. I think that's important that we talked about it, but it's not really about the episode. It's about the technical stuff.
Okay.
Because since the last time, we've noticed we faced a couple of technical issues. So first of all, there was the stuff on iTunes. We got dropped from we disappeared from iTunes for a day or so. No.
Yeah. But like, are we?
It's
like,
fixed.
I didn't check the first 17 episodes are fixed, or the first 16 episodes, but like the last one, I'm still not sure we're there.
We've no idea what's happening, but we are working on it. And another problem we have is this time on Android, on the other side of the spectrum. On Android, the spectrum of Android versus iOS.
It's a very
you
binary
are on the spectrum, aren't you? I guess it is very binary. Okay, on the other side of the binary distinction, on the other side of the world, whatever. So when you use the podfollow link, which is a link engine that we are experimenting with to keep tracks and stats about the clicks and whatever, it seems that there might be problems on Android. I think it's in France because Android tries to open it in Google Podcasts. And Google Podcasts might not be completely launched in France or something like that.
I think it's launched, but you need to download it. And maybe like the deep link between like whatever Podlink and like the App Store. Yeah, and the App Store isn't working.
So, I don't know. Maybe eventually we'll have to stop using Podfollow because if it tries to open things that don't exist, it's a bit annoying. But so the reason why we're using that is because it allows people to open the link in their favorite app by default. And if there's no app, it's supposed to play the MP3 directly.
Yeah, supposed to.
If there is too much trouble with that, just let us know and we'll figure out another solution, of course. By the way, I took a day off recently and dusted off all the tools I used for learning Japanese and put them on my GitHub and mentioned it in my blog.
Okay. Shameless plugging?
Shameless plugging, yeah. I mean, that's what I've been doing, spending a lot of time on lately, right? And the reason why I've done that is because I've been learning Japanese for 7 years now or something like that. And so along the way, I did a lot of things. Yeah, so in language learning, you often use apps for flashcards. So prompting you to remember things and see if you remember them. And they're supposedly smart interval repetition, blah, blah, blah. the most common used, the most standard is Anki. And so that's the one I use. And for it, I made an add-on to which I feed basically a list of words or a subtitle file. And it fetches the definition and the various spellings, whatever, from dictionaries and uploads it directly to the programs.
That seems nice.
Pretty nice. The thing is, it's a very flexible platform, so you can have essentially any kind of cards on it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people in medicine use it, for instance, and this kind of stuff. You'd need to have the exact same card setup than me for it to work.
Okay.
Right, you need to have these specific Japanese cards. But maybe another one that you would find more interesting is everything I've done about kanjis. So kanjis are the Chinese characters that the Japanese write with.
Yeah.
It's more or less 2,000 characters, and they have been built through the edges in a very chaotic way. Like some of them are used because the Chinese pronunciation looks the same. Some of them are used because the Chinese meaning looks the same. And some of them are used, I don't even know why. And so essentially you have to memorize everything just like by heart.
Yeah.
And I'm having a very tough time with that.
Kind of like in Chinese. Like even if it's maybe less chaotic.
Well, I don't know how it is in Chinese.
Okay, because you can't really derive the meaning of the character by just looking at all the keys, for example. Like it's just kind of random.
But if a character in Chinese is built from another character, adding stuff around, is it related? Or not necessarily?
Well, it depends. So no, not really. Not necessarily. Like it can be a bit random.
So did the character you've already learned help you learn the next ones? Like, can you make assumptions on characters you don't know based on the characters you know?
I think you can make some assumption. Like sometimes you're very, very wrong, but like
okay,
you can make some assumption.
You can try to make assumptions, and it sometimes
yeah,
works.
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't know. You see the character for gate. You see like a weird stuff front. You're like, okay, maybe it's not like it's something that you can enter somehow. Like that sort of things.
Okay, I guess it's also messy in Chinese. So the source material is messy to begin with, and this is such a mess. So the thing I've done through the years is make sure that for each symbol I have the details of how it's built, like all the elementary components. You'd be surprised how hard it is to find that. Nobody does that very well.
Really?
Yes, because they've shifted through the years, I guess. I don't know. I'm not super satisfied with the... Well, I don't think there is an official answer. And the ones that I keep seeing are imperfect at best. So I've decomposed them myself in elementary particles. And here comes the interesting, the thing I'm the most proud of. I put all of these symbols on various maps. Because I wanted to leverage my spatial memory or whatever, especially to distinguish between symbols that are similar, whether in meaning or in writing. Mm-hmm. So what I have done is you have edges, you have links between these symbols, whether it is they share component or they share meaning or they look the same, etc. And so if you try to think about all these links, think of the symbols as points and the links as edges, you get a super big graph structure. Except that it doesn't have a structure, right? It's a huge mess. So if you want to, I mean, I'm going to be a bit mathy here, but clearly I need more than 3 dimensions to visualize the graph.
Yeah, that's always a
because
problem.
Otherwise it's just a big ball of edges. And so the way I've done it to solve this issue is to plot several types of graphs and like several snapshots of several subparts of this huge mess, and that makes it a bit more tolerable. It makes a cute...
To be honest, I haven't read the blog and I have a hard time visualizing what it looks like.
Yeah, I'll send you and put in the show notes an example of what these maps of kanjis end up being like. So I color them based on how hard they are for me to memorize.
Okay, it doesn't seem like it would help, like at all.
I don't know. I think it helps me, especially to distinguish between the ones that are close by. Like I see when there is a region where there is a lot of color, it's like I need to pay attention to that.
But I don't know, because like what I'm seeing right now is, for example, so on the picture that you send me, and will be the chapter picture, so everyone can look at it during the explanation. I look at it and, like, for example, I see the character, like the Chinese character for like more, and then like I look at like just a bit below that, I look at like the character which has not even the same top side, but to say like man or male, and like it's very close by. There's no arrow between the two. It doesn't mean the same thing at all. It has no, except the square top, which is not the same square top. It has nothing to do with each other. So I'm not super sure. There's no meaning. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're close.
Yeah, so because I have to plot everything on a 2D screen, it projects stuff from that are not supposed to be close by in a close by system.
Okay.
And there is also a fair amount of arbitrariness maybe in my associations, especially when it comes to the meaning. But the graph you see is the graph of construction of components. So an arrow is like X is a subcomponent of Y. Are you tired of seeing water being so liquid all the time? Introducing ice. For a small cost of just a tiny bit more volume, ice will provide you with a stable, solid storage form for your water. No more spilling or running, the water stays neatly in place. Try ice right now by lowering temperature or increasing pressure.
I'll let you introduce the question.
Yes, it's so this time we're tackling a question that is dear to my heart, and hopefully we'll do another episode that will change my life.
I hope so. Very not sure.
We'll see. I think one way to phrase it, to bring it to the table, it could be as a follow-up from episode 9. I don't know if you remember that we talked about what is the problem with being self-contradicting. And to give you a very brief summary of the conclusion we came up with is that it prevents you from doing any kind of progression, right? If you want to progress on a topic, a project, or anything, rationality helps. Yeah. And
this episode made me vegetarian. Like, you fucked with my life with that episode, but like it's fine.
See, our episodes change our lives.
Yeah, way too much.
Well, maybe this episode will help. I don't know. So anyway, after this episode, and even before, I guess, I have always had this little voice in the corner of my head, especially when I watch media, and we can probably get into that. But we've seen that rationality is a good thing, and a lot of people would tend to agree, even though it's a big debate in the US, but in normal places rationality tends to be a good thing, and tends to be encouraged, and science is cool and stuff like that, and produce results, and most of our material comfort has been provided by rationality. Yet when you see in fictions characters that act rationally, so the textbook example is the Spock syndrome from Star Trek, even though there is a lot of problem with that because it's not actually rational, it's a parody of rationality, but whatever, let's not go into that. My point is, when you see rationality applied, like extreme rationality in fiction, it's kind of like frowned upon. It's portrayed in a bad way. You don't want to be like a robot. You don't want to be too rational. And my gut question is, why is that? Why is rationality always portrayed as a bad thing?
So I think there's two specific things, because in fiction, rationality is put against being emotionally intelligent, and I think that's why people don't want, in fiction, people that are rational, super rational, are not super liked or weirdly liked, because it goes against their super rational against being like friendly, against being understanding, and like most of the time against being empathetic.
That's a nice point, because so that's what I was alluding to when I said that Spock is actually a parody of rationality. Because a rational person need not be cold and not empathetic, right? It is even more rational in most cases to be kind to people, because being cold to people doesn't yield your expected result. It rarely yields a good result, I think.
Well, the thing is it though? Usually, like people that are not usually, but like some people that have autism have really, really high IQ, and there are like whatever, like high functioning autism, and they are very, very rational people, but they can't. But it goes against like a sort of emotional intelligence, and I think like these people might want to be nice, might whatever, but like they don't really have the empathy.
They can't.
They can't really have like, yeah, they just can't have the empathy, but they are very rational. So like obviously they don't want people to like cry or to be sad or whatever. It's just like they don't see it, and it goes with like high logical intelligence.
I mean, that's a very interesting example. Part of it is that if you're rational, like, rationality can only guide you within your possibilities and affordances, right? If you're incapable from empathy, from being nice, from smiling, then rationality cannot help with that, I guess.
Yeah.
But the bottom line here is that if you want to, like, I don't know, if you want to accomplish a teamwork project or something, being nice and taking into consideration other people's feeling will be in your best interest if you can.
Yeah, but like that's where like it's very hard. If you take just rationality, I think it's very hard to put like the threshold of like where you need to like stop being rational and being empathetic.
But that's the thing. It's not opposed. Like, empathy can be a tool for rationality, you know?
It can, but sometimes it can't. Meaning, like for example, like you have a conversation with a friend about his boyfriend, his girlfriend, whatever. Okay, you know, like if you follow rationality and if you follow like everything that you know, like you know that he needs to leave. The rational thing for him is to leave, and you know it, and you can prove it to him, whatever. Imagine a way that you can prove it to her. So the rational thing is that. What is a rational thing to do is like nothing. Like you don't, like there's nothing. So you can expose the rationality of it, but like maybe like you will make that person cry. You can not expose the rationality of it because you know that he doesn't care, and like there's no good answer there. So it's more about applying rationality.
So there's a couple of open questions in this, and I think it's a great example because rationality doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? It's always subservient to some kind of goal, and it doesn't tell you what the goal should be. It's a method, not a prescription. So if your goal is to make him cry, then okay, and then it's a very different to the rational decision for this person to it might be rational for them to end their relationship, but then there is it's a completely different set of questions what you as the speaker in this conversation should do, right? What is your goal? If your goal is to have this relationship broken up, maybe your best way to do it is to expose the rationality of it, but probably the best way to do it is like to empathize and not expose the rationality of leaving someone. So you always have to think of like what is the end goal and go back to this definition.
As you can see in that conversation, like there's no rational way to go about it. Like we don't have knowledge about how to deal with, like we just don't have a rational way to deal with a conversation like that.
I mean, yeah, rationality is a thing about perfect information, and this a lot of topics tend to be really messy.
And I think that's the issue. Like in fiction, people that are this like parody or not parody of like very rational being tends to use rationality as the only way to communicate with people. So like Spock or even like Sherlock is just using rationality always, even if he's interacting with people. Like if Sherlock talks to Watson about, I don't know, an emotional thing, like someone's died, he will say like, oh, but don't worry, like he doesn't feel anymore, like who the fuck cares. Usually in fiction it goes hands in hands, like people that are very rational will say their rationality about like everything basically.
The thing is that it's not true rationality, because in true rationality you take into account other people's state of mind, and you try to leverage empathy or whatever vis-a-vis your goals. So why is it that we see so much of these parodies, these negative parodies, and never any portrayal of like, oh yeah, if you rationalize a little bit your feelings, maybe you can find a good like if you both use feelings and rationality, maybe you can get to a better goal.
I don't think it's true that you don't see that. Meaning, like, what you don't see is a very, very, very rational, like, usually they're super intelligent people that don't want to, don't care about, like, for example, Dr. House, don't care about people, and all they care is, like, whatever, like, they're intelligent and their rationality. What I want to say is, like, in pop culture, like, not really in pop culture, but, like, in culture in general, all self-help book right now, and, like, all the meditation talk, right, that is very, very popular right now, is about rationalizing, like, your feeling, and be more rational about how you feel, and, like, taking a bit of a step back about your life, and, like, I think it's very much putting rationality into the human mind and into your emotion to actually feel better and be better at life, basically.
To apply the best method to solve a problem. But so don't you feel like there is kind of a disconnect then between the fiction in media and what we actually do in real life? There's very little portrayal in media of like, this self-help you were talking about.
But not really. Like if you talk, like maybe in TV show, yes, but like in just like talk show, like Oprah is really like that kind of person. Is really like, oh, self-reflect, be like rational about your feeling. Oh, and I'll give you a car. You know what I mean?
This is we found the intro. Yeah. Sure. So I think there's the kind of like hiatus between, because Oprah and all are more into the reality side of the spectrum, whereas the TV shows and the fiction, like, I don't know, it seems like you wouldn't see this kind of mindset in stories, and stories are portrayal in a way of our ideals.
Well, I feel like someone that is what we're saying is not creating any drama, so it's not a good story.
I feel that it's more potent than you give it credit for. So
I mean, one like really nice, intelligent, self-reflecting man, it's not a good start for a story. Like maybe you can do a good story about this guy. Not sure it's the best story.
That's I like this perspective a lot. Believe it or not, I never had it. So rationality might not be a good story driving device. Might not be good for drama. Interesting. The whole thing about drama is that you have problems that you're supposed to overcome. So, I mean, I could see very clearly that, you know, the circle of hero progression, whatever, where the hero goes on a journey, and on this journey they learn to be more rational, and they come back and solve all the problems with the new tools they have.
It's the end of the story.
Yeah, so I don't think it's so antithetic. I don't think it's so impossible as you make it seem.
Well, I mean, like you're imagining someone that is not acting rational and is going to a journey to become rational. The becoming rational is the end of the story, not the start.
Yeah, but we still don't see the story of becoming rational.
I mean, is that true though? Like, it depends on what you're like. I think it depends on what you're calling rational, but I feel like we see a lot of the growing up journey, even in like bullshit. Like, I don't know, like, even in Naruto, basically, like, you start with this little kid that has no friends, that don't like anyone because whatever reason in his life, like, because he has a hard life. And then you go to that journey of him, like, maturing and, like, making friends, and, like, while he's making friends, he's becoming more rational about it. Like, okay, but, like, actually, like, people are nice, they just have, like have that environment that make them, like, hate me, and blah, blah, blah. And then he become, like, and what's nice about Naruto is then he becomes the Hokage, like, whatever the president president, for people that don't follow Naruto. And what you see in whatever, like when he's president, is this very rational being, which is, okay, no, I can't see my son because I need to like deal with like the village, blah, blah, blah. And like that's more important because like I love him and I want him to live in like a peaceful whatever. And so you see that like journey of him being like this little brat that don't know shit to like this kind of like very mature, very logical being that still love people and that still have a lot of empathy because it's like kind of his character, but also having this very rational way of dealing with life, basically.
It's the whole arc
coming to age.
of growing up, coming to age, and acquiring wisdom. In a way, this is very tied to wisdom.
And I do think wisdom is kind of being rational about life.
Today's sponsor is the past. Remember the past? How fun it was. What memories. Such memories. Anyway, that was the past. A great example about how character growth is usually, you can see it as pro-rationality in a way, because often you acquire wisdom, often you get less impulsive, etc.
Yeah.
But the point of view I was coming at with this question is more of a macro scale. I mean, I've been watching, I watch a lot of sci-fi dystopia kind of things, and you often have this matrix kind of system that is super rational, making everything the way it should be and making everyone happy and whatever. It seems to be the trope and the normal. It seems to be the only possible storytelling about this, that and the encouraged storytelling about this, that you should take down the system in the name of personal freedom, like tear down this perfect system to allow you to be free, I guess, in the name of freedom.
Yeah, being happy. Like there are, like the system is telling you always in all the system and in all utopia versus dystopia, it's always like the end goal is being happy. It's never something else. And the problem, I think, is like people can't, it's not the end goal for anyone being happy.
So you think that the hero or whatever acts rationally, but towards a different goal than the system?
Yeah, and as you said, like they are rational about I want more freedom. Always, it's always like freedom, and obviously it's like a United States trope, like freedom before everything and whatever, and very libertarian way of thinking. But I do think that when you are in a very well-oiled system, which only is basically giving food to everyone and giving whatever like pills for them to be happy, pills in the form of pills in the form of like entertainment, whatever form, just like them being happy to be happy without a reason to live. I think you remove what makes human basically, which is having a goal and like making sense of life. And I think making sense of life, you can't make sense of life if you're told to do something always for all your life. And I think that's a very, like, you have a desire that you need to like fulfill, and if you're always happy, you don't have a desire because it's the definition.
So it would be a disagreement on the goal rather than the method, and so
yeah, I think so.
It would be you need to rationally act against the rational fulfillment of your desires if you want to address like your underlying goal,
your actual desire.
Throwback to Sarah's and my. Okay, so if I see stuff in fiction that seems like they are, how to say, like putting positive value to irrationality, passion, etc., it's actually putting positive value of rationality. Well, it can be seen anyway as putting positive value on a rationality to a goal that seems irrational, but that is actually rational considering
what that goal is.
Considering how fucked up humans are.
Yeah, but like, yeah, exactly.
is that a case of humans need some sort of semblance of irrationality, and so they are rationally trying to pursue this semblance of irrationality?
I think that human tends to go back, like to be homeostatic, so like to go back to a natural state of discontent. And I think a well-oiled machine isn't. At one point, like you are discontent with it, and so you miss something.
That's exactly what the Matrix iterations show. You should rewatch it.
Yeah, I'm gonna rewatch it. But so any system that doesn't evolve often, I don't think it can really fulfill what humans are, because humans are about evolution and about being discontent and about finding some solution about it. So you're removing, I think, one part of what humans are.
So just to sum up, you don't think there's some kind of implicit propaganda against rationality in our media? You don't think that irrationality is valued, like passion is valued, and people are encouraged to break rationality?
No, I didn't say that at all. I'm thinking like right now, obviously, like with the fake news stuff, like people are going against rationality and against science even. And like there's like the flat earth movement, like there's a lot of stuff that shows that people are going against rationality. What I'm saying is before that last 4 years, 3 years, whatever, 10 years, let's like be wild. I do think that passion is pushed forward, but I don't think passion is going against rationality. It's just a way, like basically it's just saying, yeah, you need to be passionate about life, you need to like love someone, you need to like love something, you need to create. Like it's more about having your fullest life than not being. I don't think it goes against rationality.
So one of the feelings that I had when I was seeing this in the stories, I was looking at Japanese media and I was wondering if it was maybe some sort of leak from American-style individualism leaking into the zeitgeist worldwide. The individualism would favor passion over rationality.
Oh, so you're saying that I never thought about that. So if you are more an individualistic society, you're favoring more passion, but if you are in a more collectivistic society, whatever society, you're more favoring rationality.
I mean, it might just be a thing of like implicit goal being individual expression versus the goal being solving big problems or whatever.
That's interesting, because like that's kind of true. Like if you want to solve like self-driving cars, you can't be individualistic. You can't be not rational about it. Whereas if you want to create, meaning just create art. I think like art is a problem. meaning I do think that like if you remove anything artistic from like human life, then like there won't be any problem, I guess.
I don't know. Maybe you can do rational art that is pleasing the senses or stimulating you in a rational way to think about things. I don't know. So you can have many conceptions of art, and maybe it's not about expression of yourself. Maybe it's about tension toward an ideal absolute or anything like that. So do you think that maybe...
It's about your feeling about that, no? It's about your feeling about that. It's not about the thing in itself.
But maybe this conception of art is itself part of the individualistic propaganda that values passion over rationality.
Maybe. But I guess you're right, because like all classicist school in any kind of art were like, fuck you, like there's rules. And like it's kind of new to say like fuck the rules, like what's important is passion. And that's kind of fun, because it's kind of like it's super new actually, even in art, like surely in art, like so
is it American propaganda?
I'm not sure it's I'm not sure it's like the state's propaganda. I'm pretty sure it's more we solved most problems and now we need to create some.
We need to solve ourselves.
yeah, now we can eat, so whatever.
It's nice because I had a point in my notes that corroborates a little bit what we were talking about, because we were saying that you could follow something that seems irrational as part of a rational method towards your goal. Sometimes your goal demands that you seem irrational. And we talked a lot about these dystopias and so on, where you need this, at least an illusion of freedom. And maybe my personal conclusion I came up with when I was wondering why is passion, like this kind of irrationality, so valued is because, so my conclusion was maybe mankind is too terrified to admit that they are deterministic being, and they look into this kind of irrationality, passion, whatever, for some kind of solace to prove that they can still transcend rules. And so in that way it would be still rational vis-a-vis like being able to live, being able to survive.
Doesn't being deterministic mean that everyone is rationalitarian by definition? If you say that like people are deterministic, per definition they act logically.
Not respective to their goal.
Not respective
well,
to their goal. Okay.
They act rationally vis-a-vis a set of
physics.
Physical. Vis-a-vis physics, yeah, sure.
I was pushing it a bit, but
that's interesting.
No, but that was not like what I wanted to say. Like it was just a joke. What I wanted to say is something else that I forgot. So let me just rewind a bit, which was okay. I don't think it's even in the radar of anyone to be deterministic. I think it's like
I'm talking more of an unconscious kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, because it's so new in culture, not even in culture, but like it's such a new thing to think that like human can be deterministic, that I feel like if it was an unconscious push, as a civilization, we would have created philosophy, art, and stuff way before in our culture that would show that it is an issue. Because like, there's basically nothing about that.
So if it was something elementary to human nature, you'd expect to see individualists back when classicists were all about rules.
That's a way better way to say that, yeah.
It's the contraposé, contractual. I follow a lot of rationalist thinking. If you want to validate an hypothesis, you need to imagine, would it still hold true in the world where your premise is wrong? Okay, so we have nothing to worry about.
Ever.
And paradoxically everything to worry about, because everyone is more rational than I used to give them credit for, but they are rational
with the wrong premises
vis-a-vis a goal that I completely disagree and we will never reconcile.
And the problem with goal, it's kind of hard to change them, I guess.
I mean, you could dig a bit rational, like, so I think the one resolution we could see out of that is that I don't think enough people question their goal rationally. Like, what is it that I really want? Why do I want that? Is it a sub-part of a bigger goal? Am I missing the point?
What's interesting is that, and that goes with you saying like that the United States culture is kind of allowing that to be removed from the conversation, is that even in psychology right now, and psychology that follows like the American way don't care about that at all, which goes completely against like what psychoanalysis is, which is why the fuck do you want that? Like, do you really want that? And like actually ask this question.
Yeah. Question the axioms of a person.
Yeah, much more than like they don't really care. And people don't care about that at all. Like when you talk about seeing a psychoanalyst today and saying like what you're actually doing there, people are like, why are you doing that? Like you just don't do that. Like just go see a coach or something. And I think like that's a very strange change of point of view. We're not asking ourselves as a society, why the fuck are we there? We're just saying like, I want to feel happier and get me there now. And we don't ask that question about like why do we want to be happy? And I think happiness has become becomes this god that we want to strive for, and like we
Yeah.
don't really think about it.
Yeah, so that's also what sparked my thinking. Seeing that in Japanese media, I was like, should I not expect to see more different assumptions about what humans are and want than what I'm seeing right now? People fighting dystopia.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Just the hegemony of culture. I think like it goes with like the hegemony of culture.
It's the hegemony of
Yeah,
happiness.
but clearly, I think like we're at that state, and like I think it's one of the first time in the world that we're at that state that everyone agrees that the goal is to be happy. Because even like the Christian thing is not to be happy. The Bible don't say be happy. You know what I mean? Like that's not the thing.
I wonder if we should do a dedicated episode on that, because I don't know what we could say about it, but it's an important topic.
Yeah, for sure. What's the goal of life? One episode, 30 minutes.
I think we reached a pretty cute conclusion.
Yeah.
I will invite everyone who thinks otherwise to join us on Reddit, on Twitter, or by email at notdailypodcast everywhere. Come and tell us if you think there actually is an anti-rational propaganda going on implicitly, or if everything's going irrationally according to not my plan. In either cases, I think I'm fucked. So you can also just write to us to cheer us up.